Good.
All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to the City Commission meeting of August 23rd, 2022. I'll ask everyone to please silence your cell phones or any electronic devices that you may have at this time. I apologize for the delayed start, but we had a workshop right before this that we had to crucially get done. So at this time, I will call this meeting to order and ask Ms. Manning, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Penny?
Here.
Commissioner Curry?
Here.
Commissioner Danio?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Mayor Vios?
Here. And now I will ask that you all please stand for the invocation led by Commissioner Danio and continue afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Well, today was an election day, and I hope everybody got out there to vote that was able to. There are over 14 million registered voters in the state of Florida, Commissioner Curry.
Thank you for the information.
And for some reason, people seem to think that their vote doesn't count. It's only one vote. But I would think that Thomas Jefferson would have a different view on that back in 1800, when he won the presidency through the Electoral College process by only one vote. So you just never know. Anyway, let's pray. Lord, we come to you tonight as a humble city, and we ask for your guidance and your wisdom, as we always do, God. We just ask you to help us make decisions to better our community and our city. And God, the most important thing we want is to act and conduct ourselves in a way that glorifies you. Be with those out there that are in need, and let them know that you're always there for them, God. And we just thank you, and we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Danio.
No problem.
At this time, we will recess the City Commission meeting and convene as the CRA. And tonight on our CRA agenda, item number 1 is 2022-R-57. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2022-R-57 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, approving the proposed task order submitted by Mead & Hunt, Inc. for Parts A and B of Phase 3 of the conversion of the overhead to underground utilities, and authorize the City Manager to execute the same, providing for severability and providing for an effective date. Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte.
So we're moving forward with Phase 3 of the overhead to underground project, and we've met with Mead Hunt, David King specifically, and he's outlined 5 parts to moving forward with Phase 3. And if you remember, Quinton Hampton, Mead Hunt came into the project kind of late the last time. We started out with and Dickens Electric, and we ended up switching them out. So David is putting a proposal for moving forward with Phase 3, and he's breaking it into different parts and submitting his estimates for that. So for these first 2 parts, A and B, it's an estimate of $64,535.27 to get started on that, which can consist of the utility company engagement, data collection, and easement acquisition.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forte. Are there any questions for staff on this? All right. With that, we're going to open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
Second. We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson, a second from Vice Mayor Penny. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now, number 2, that's the CRA approval authorizing the City Manager to execute payment for additional changes to the US 1 utility undergrounding conversions contract with AT&T for an amount not to exceed $107,153.30. Mr. Forte.
I'm going to have Antoine come up and explain a little bit of this to you. A little bit of a surprise increase, but I even spoke with the representative from FPL today, but I'll let Antoine bring you up to date.
Thank you. Mr. Curry, the floor is yours.
Antoine Coury, Public Works. The unfortunate event what happened on this project was we had a existing project manager, Nathan, and we worked very well with him. But in May of this year, we received the bill. The city received the bill for $107,000, and we've been going back and forth with AT&T to try to get some justification, and they keep sending us stuff that's reasonable, but we don't have the details, and we didn't know about it beforehand. But at the same time, we are obligated to honor the agreement in a way and pay him the $153.70. Most of that stuff is, when they planned on doing some of that work, is they thought they can feed some of those businesses along US 1 from the back, and unfortunately they could not, so they had to go from the front, and that's most of the additional cost that we were having.
All right, thank you. And for questions, I asked Mr. Forte yesterday, and I don't know if you got the answer to this, about the credit of $56,000.
The credit was included in that already.
Yeah.
So they already had given that $56,000 back to us?
Yes.
That was already included. He did say that a lot of this was due in part of the time that it took to get this done. And if you remember, early on, one of our biggest concerns was AT&T was going to be the biggest delay, when they really weren't. A lot of it was FPL that was the delay. So this had gone on for several years longer than they thought. So labor costs increased. There were delays in the project. Materials increased. I had a list of about 5 or 6 things that he I wanted to know a little bit more. And he said, I can't narrow down exactly line by line what the costs were, but they had been keeping track in their finance department of what the expenses were. And he explained that this was not a fixed fee contract. It was an actual fee contract. So at the end, they kind of true it up, so to speak. And I even asked him a little bit about the next phase, how we're going to do that. And he said basically the same thing. You're going to get a price, but at the end, they're going to true up whatever the difference is. Hopefully the next phase will go a little bit quicker than what this one did. But to answer your question, that credit is included in the original cost, so that's already been there. I think we don't have much of a option than to move forward with paying this increase.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Forte. Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Curry. At this time, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson and a second from Commissioner Curry. Any discussion needed?
I think it's a bit excessive, but I'll make the motion anyway.
It has to get done. It's true costs that are being billed back to us.
AT&T, don't want to talk about it.
All right. With that, anything further? We're going to take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we will adjourn as the CRA and reconvene as the City Commission. And we'll move now to public comments. This is the audience's opportunity to address the Commission about anything not on our regular agenda tonight. Yes, Ms. Heidi.
Hi there, I'm Heidi Heller, 460 Ridgewood Avenue. I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me my chance to give some thoughts that I have, and for the earlier meeting regarding the memorial. There's a mural that we discussed, or you're having a discussion about putting the murals on Route 1. I think it's a sad state in that you're not advertising what's going on. You're making pictures of flowers. There are flowers all over the place. Flowers are wonderful, but I think you're missing an opportunity. Even in your ad that you have for the Greater Daytona Regional for Holly Hill, there's no flowers in there because you want to promote the city. You want to promote what you're proud of in the city and where it's going. There's nice housing, there's a pickleball activity, there's the fake fountainhead, which wasn't a good idea and a good look in the beginning, and then we have the flight gymnastics. I would like to recommend or change what people are seeing. Flowers are all over the place. I can't remember a flower mural in all the travels that I've done, but I remember pictures and images of what you're proud of in the city, whether it's Pictona or the seaplane base or nice housing, schooling. Those are good things that people are working towards. And my other objection to the mural is there's a mural in DeLand. It's the whole side of a building. It's 47 by about 17 feet. That whole mural was $10,000.
Isn't this on the agenda?
You could fit.
I was just looking.
The last item on the agenda.
This is on the
Or is this on?
Is this on the agenda?
Yes.
The last item.
Yeah, it is. The Save the Arts. I thought. Yeah.
Should I stop or repeat?
Yeah, you should stop. But you could talk about anything else not on the agenda. Do you have anything else for us?
No, nothing.
No. Okay. You can continue that once we get to that item. Thank you, John. Looking at my agenda there. All right. With that, is there anyone else that would like to speak to the City Commission about anything not on our regular agenda? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. I will close public comments, and we will move to number 6, which is the approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the August 9th, 2022 regular City Commission meeting. Can I have a motion for approval of the minutes?
Motion.
Second. We have a motion of approval of the minutes by Commissioner Danio, a second by Commissioner Curry. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the minutes? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. We'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move to our consent agenda, items 1 through 6. Is there a commissioner that wishes to remove any item on the consent agenda tonight? All right. The action proposed is stated for each item on the consent agenda. Unless a city commissioner removes an item from the consent agenda, no discussion on individual items will occur, and a single motion will approve all items. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I will close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda 1 through 6. Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda from Commissioner Curry and a second from Commissioner Danio. No discussion is needed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move to our regular agenda tonight, and our first item is Resolution 2022-R-56. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2022-R-56 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, establishing certain fees, decreasing certain fees, and increasing certain existing fees for various services, permits, and certificates provided by the city, and increasing water and sewer rates by 5.5% for the next fiscal year, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte?
So this is the fee resolution. Most of the changes that are on there reflect the 5.5% increase to the Water and Wastewater Fund. There are some other increases to the building department that we did a comparison to what Ormond Beach, Daytona Beach, and South Daytona are charging. We're still charging less than what those cities are for those same services, even though some of them are significant increases to some of the items. We're still not quite up to what our surrounding cities were charging.
Is that primarily, you mean, in the building department, building permits, things like that?
Yeah, it's things like zoning changes or plat approvals, where we're still several $100s less than the other cities on some of those items.
Okay. Could we, in the future, look into, and I'm looking at you, Brian, I want to make sure that our staff is made whole on those fees of what you're charging, because we don't have as much of those permits going on as Ormond or Daytona or Volusia County. And I understand that we want to be business friendly, and this commission is very business friendly, but I want to make sure that the time that is taken from your staff, Brian, and from your staff, Joe, that we are made whole on this as opposed to funding it from a different source.
I understand what you're saying, but there's a challenge to that because this is a separate enterprise fund, and we have to be careful trying to make whole, because the development community can come out and challenge that and decide that our fees are too expensive, and it was challenged in Flagler County a couple of years ago, and the county lost. So in other words, if we say, well, we're going to charge more because it's costing more, a challenge comes in and they come back and they say, well, you're paying Brian too much an hour, so that should reduce it. You're paying your staff too much, and that should reduce it. And they come back with all these reasons why you can't be whole, because you've decided to pay people too much shouldn't be our problem.
Okay.
So we'll do the best we can as trying to inch those things up to make it. Our goal is to make it self-sustaining, which is what you're trying to do.
Right.
But we need.
But let me also clarify what I mean by make whole is I know we possibly can't make it all the way whole.
Right.
But if we are below all of the surrounding jurisdictions, I don't see a reason why we should be less for a building permit than, say, Ormond Beach.
We shouldn't.
So, because we're spending the same amount of staff time, possibly more because we have less staff members.
Exactly.
And the pushback to the other part is that we don't pay our employees too much.
Right.
That was just yeah, I know, but just put that out. But that's just a comment
for our way there.
Yeah. Okay.
We're getting there.
Thank you.
One rung at a time, right, Joe?
Are there any other questions for staff? All right. With that, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience? Yes, Ms. Heller.
Just sit up front and save some time.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Heidi Heller, 460 Ridgewood Avenue of Holly Hill. Sorry about the mistake I made. You know, I'm old.
Good.
You can do it every now and then.
It happens.
The observation I have about the budget, on the workshop a while ago, I heard Miss Susan mention that there's only 8 second toters in the accounts. I went down Daytona Avenue yesterday from LBGA to Mason, and there are actually 5 second toters. One household had 3 toters. So the differential in pricing, especially with this huge price increase from, $8.90 to $25.01 for the second toter, according to Mr. Antoine, there's 107 maybe miles in the city, so that's 107 times 6, which is my differential, which is about $1,000 a month. I think it all adds up in the long term. I think a little bit more compliance needs to be done in finding out the charges, or having the charges done correctly. Commercial yards, they're not going up at all, and I'm just curious to say why. Why are not commercial, the dumpsters, the 2-yard, the 4-yard, the 6, the 12, they're not going up at all. If the other charges are going up, why not the 2301 for the residential toter to 2501, that's 8%. Why is not the commercial dumpster going up also? There's still a couple mistakes. I thought I was trying to get them changed on page 8 of 18 and 9 of 18. There's some incomplete sentences still that haven't been corrected. So I think I'd just like to know specifically why is not the commercial dumpster price going up the 8.9% like everybody else, and for compliance, I think the extra toters needs to be reviewed around the city or tracked. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heller. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation before I ask for a motion. Heidi, I believe for the extra toters, we only have a couple out in the city. Is that correct, Joe?
Well, let me rephrase that. We have about a dozen that we know of. So there may be people who have taken an extra toter that we don't know of, and she's correct. We can go around and do an audit of that, but typically we hire Bill Redmond to do that as an extra service, and he charges several $100 or more to patrol the city to identify those additional toters.
Okay.
We can probably start out with asking the drivers to identify properties that have 2 toters and see what we come back with, and that shouldn't cost us anything, but the driver's keeping track. But if we were to do an audit, the cost of the audit wouldn't be worth the value that we're going to save.
But they're charging us the same for an extra toter than the initial toter, so that's why that price is going up to even out. I think it was from $8 to $25.
Yeah, something that, yeah.
And then would you address the commercial toters as well?
The reason the commercial toters didn't go up, and Susan will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but there's enough profitability on the commercial side that we didn't feel a need to increase that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any further questions for staff? I'll open the floor for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Vice Mayor Penny, a second from Commissioner Danio. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we're moving to number 2 on our regular agenda, Resolution 2022-R-63. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2022-R-63 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, approving an agreement with FPL for the replacement of lighting fixtures in Sunrise Park North, Ross Point, and along Riverside Drive from 2nd Street to 15th Place at the initial cost of $14,892.30, monthly maintenance cost of $655.26, and the ongoing cost of electricity powering the lights, and authorizing the city manager to execute the same, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Mr. Forte.
So, I'm kind of excited about this. It's going to be a nice lighted project up Riverside Drive. I think it's going to look beautiful when it's done. Something to be proud of. The poles are colored all the way through. We confirmed that. I know that question came up the last time. Another question that had come up was the spillage of the light, and it's going to extend into the roadway a little bit, so it's not going to shine onto any of the upland property themselves. They're not going to have shields.
Shields will be on the east side.
The shield.
Will be on the
Let Antoine finish, because we had a couple of conversations with FPL about it.
All right. Mr. Curry.
Antoine Corey, Public Works. The shields will only be along the east side of Riverside, where there is residences. So to keep the light from intruding into the properties. Also, we switched.
So then the shield would be on the west side of the
west side.
No,
east.
the east side.
The east.
On the lights that are on the east side, where there is less residences.
Oh,
the north end of town.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only a few.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also from last time when we showed you the light fixtures, we switched to the light fixtures that has very little light pollution or light bleeding vertical, or upwards. So that keeps the lights down, and you can actually some of those residents can still see over the light poles, so they can see the river. Also, Ross Point is getting new lights, light poles. Like Joe said, the black color is mixed into a compound of the concrete. That doesn't mean it's not going to fade. Florida sun is brutal, but it lasts a whole lot longer than just regular paint. Sunrise Park North, we're only replacing the fixtures on top, and it'll have the same kind of fixtures, no vertical or no upward light pollutions.
Those poles will stay the same poles, but they'll have a new head on it.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Curry. Are there any questions for staff? Thank you for working so hard on this. I think it's going to be beautiful. So, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the City Commission tonight on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Curry, and we have a second from Commissioner Johnson. Is it any discussion needed? All right. We'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now moving to number 3 on our regular agenda is Resolution 2022-R-64. Mr. Simpson.
Resolution number 2022-R-64 by title only for first and only reading. A resolution of the City Commission, City of Holly Hill, Florida, approving the purchase of a replacement 40 by 60-foot metal building from Florida Metal Building Services in the amount of $76,890 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Mr. Forte.
This is budgeted. We have money budgeted originally for a full build-out, but now that we're going to be building a new fire station, and Public Works is going to be moving some of their operations into the old fire station or the existing fire station, we're going with a 40 by 60 building. The $76,000 is for the shell. We still have to use the balance of the budget to do the build-out of the inside.
Thank you very much. I see that there was 3 proposals, and we didn't get to speak about this yesterday, Mr. Forte. What was wrong with the EverSafe bid?
Antoine will come up and talk about this, but the committee reviewed it, and then they also brought the building official in, and I think the building official had a higher opinion of the material that Florida Building Services is proposing versus what EverSafe did. So though their bid was less, I think the materials and the items that were being used
were different, lesser,
is better. So,
okay.
They had a committee, and I had suggested they bring the building official in. I mean, who better to bring a recommendation, and that was his recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions for staff? No. We'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Vice Mayor Penny, a second from Commissioner Curry. Is there any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now moving to number 4, the approval authorizing the city manager to execute payment for additional changes to the US 1 utility undergrounding conversions contract with AT&T for an amount not to exceed $107,153.30. We took this up earlier. Is there anything in addition that you want to add to this, Mr. Forte?
Nothing more.
Is there any further questions for staff? All right, at this time, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item tonight? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson, a second from Commissioner Danio. Any discussion needed? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move to number 5, Save the Arts Movement, the murals coming up here. So, Mr. Forte.
We'll open that item up. I'd like to have you open up you can start with the West Side mural. If you can rotate that.
I don't think you can.
At least this time I'm not having to do
I like it the way it is. You could look up at it.
Yeah, do it blind.
figure out what it is.
Can't rotate it? There you go. Okay, so this was one of the murals that you selected out of the ones that were proposed to us. What you need to keep in mind is the height of this is only 3 feet, so there's not a lot of height to deal with. So that's why the artist took an exploded look at the items that are in there. They're not small little flowers. They're kind of close-up versions of these flowers, so that you kind of have a better idea of. It was intentional to make the wall look bigger. That's what the point of it was. The flowers are representative of this community. In fact, we've had a couple of bee farmers in the city, so I think it was important that we did keep that as part of the theme that's in there. Val, if you open up the east side mural, this was the other one that you had selected, and we changed out the flamingo and the bass fish, and we put in a redfish and a turtle. Again, these are things that are representative of this area. There's many hummingbirds that are around here. Certainly, those of you that have boats and go out on the Intercoastal, one of your goals is to grab a redfish with more than one spot. And of course, the sea turtles are certainly representative of this area, maybe not necessarily directly within Holly Hill, but certainly within Volusia County. And the flowers within the words of Holly Hill were there so that it brings out, when people come down LPJ and turn onto US 1, they see that they're in Holly Hill and they see the name of the city that's there. So I wanted to make sure that you saw these and you agree that these are the ones that you want to move forward with. The cost to these were just over $8,000, $8,075, which includes them putting the sealant on it, which we had to do to the first one. And keep in mind that this is not it. You know, we did the mural on Daytona Avenue. We're proposing to do these. We've driven around and we selected about 6 or 8 other buildings in the city that could be canvases for more murals that hopefully will, through our grant program, will encourage those property owners to agree to put murals on those buildings. So this is not the be-all, end-all. This is just two of hopefully will be many more murals to come for this city. The one in DeLand that Heidi had mentioned, it is a very nice mural of some people. Some of them are actual people within the community. I think all of them are actually people within the community. I'd love to put it on there, but we would look like the folks from The Wizard of Oz. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that you agree that these are the murals that we want to move forward with. The other concern that I have, and I didn't want to bring it up, but I think I need to bring it up, is we're just going to go ahead and do this. Trying to stick between the lines. We're going to have the police department or Public Works is going to set cones out in the lanes so that the traffic will slow down as they're driving by while the ladies are on that sidewalk doing the painting. But there's no agreement to have this done. There's no permission to have this done. So I don't want somebody to come along and stop us from doing it.
As long as the artists are safe and we have our officers out there.
That's my theory, but it's not our road.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. The only question I had was, I thought that when we had talked about it on the west side, Val, if you could pull up the other one, the west side, I thought that we had said we were going to change out the snail with something else too. Did we not?
I don't remember that, but we certainly could.
No?
Yeah,
maybe that was just. Maybe I just said that, and it didn't go over well.
Maybe you were talking to yourself.
I wasn't here.
So we were keeping the snail on there.
Go back to the east side mural for a second.
How about a ladybug?
Suppose you put the hummingbird on the other side with the flowers.
I love that hummingbird.
And then put something else on this side to replace the hummingbird.
Oh.
Put the hummingbird in place of the snail.
I like the hummingbird there, though. And that hibiscus flowers right there.
Yeah.
That's nice. All right. Well, am I the only one that doesn't like the snail? All right. That's fine.
I grew up eating
snails,
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
A lot of times there's a lot of snails around.
I just have one comment, Joe. So we're going to bring attention to these bridges. And if you look at the road there, I know it's not a road, but we need to make sure that it's edged, clean, and well kept at all times, because we don't want to attract people to that crap in the road right there. And by the way, our guy Ben, our debris collector expert, amazing. He'll be on it if you tell him to do it tomorrow. It'll be spotless.
He's doing a good job.
All right. Any other quick comments or questions?
I think Heidi's going to have something to say.
I'm going to open it.
I just want to comment. The idea of advertising... Oh, I'm sorry.
You can comment after she speaks, so you can hear her out.
That's fine.
All right. Is there anything further? Any questions? All right. With this, we'll open up public comment. Yes, Mrs. Heller? Miss Heller, I'm sorry. So we did hear the first part. You're welcome to say that again, but we did hear you out on the first part. All right.
Okay. I am Heidi Heller, 460 Ridgewood Avenue. Thank you again for allowing me to share some information. And few points. Yes, there are flowers, and they're being looked at in a zoom-in. Same thing you could do with pickleball, which is advertising, or the seaplane base, which is advertising. It's wonderful that we're going around to the city and finding other places for murals. When I go to Paris, I'd like to go to Paris. I'm not going to go for the Eiffel Tower and stand in front of some flowers to get a picture. When I go to Arizona, I'm not going to get pictures of myself in Arizona. I think you're missing an advertising opportunity for the city. Even though that's a small space, it's 3 foot high, you could do a zoom in for a lot of different things around here that make us prouder than snails or hummingbirds. I'd like you to reconsider. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Heller. Is there anyone else in the audience? Yes, ma'am. Just state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes.
Sharon Hansard Miller, 553 6th Street. I've lived there for 52 years. I'm just giving a suggestion. How about a redbird instead of a snail? So.
Hey, I'm for anything not a snail. So, a cardinal?
Cardinal. Yeah.
I have cardinals at my house, and I love cardinals. All right, sorry, we're in public comment. We'll continue on. Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to the commission on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Just to address Miss Heidi, I completely hear you, but I do believe this is a good thing. Art is subjective. It always is going to be. I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that doesn't like it. I'm sure there's going to be people that love it. What I do know is this is very similar to what we did on Daytona Avenue Bridge right there. And I was driving by it the other day, and I saw actually a family standing next to it taking a picture. It's very similar. It shows wildlife, and since it's done by the same artist, I believe that it'll be in that same vein. I'm not sure people are going to want to stop and take pictures next to it on such a busy road, but I do believe that it adds some beauty to a dreary type road. Yes, Commissioner.
Mayor, just real quick, if we did switch out the snail with a cardinal, there's a flower right there, it would probably fit in quite well.
You know, I gotta thank you. Is it Sharon? Because you're starting to make me win on this snail thing. I got one commissioner on my side.
Well, there's a lot of symbolism to cardinals and redbirds, and I think it would be amazing to have it up there.
Yeah. Well, now I got 3 votes.
Oh, Hanger wants it to be a robin.
Can we do that?
Hang it.
There you go.
I wanted to say to Heidi's remarks, and I knew what she was saying earlier, but I don't think we're looking for the advertising angle. I think we're looking to kind of identify ourselves maybe, or define ourselves in a different way that other cities, that's kind of our goal. You can shrink down pickleball and all that, but all that kind of speaks for itself. We've got other opportunities to advertise. This is kind of a unique way of just identifying ourselves above and beyond. Maybe we started it on Daytona, we're doing a couple here. Joe's got some ideas for something else. Well, I just think it's a different...
The other thing is, we have the luxury of looking at this going 0 miles per hour.
Yeah.
The average speed is probably 45 to 50 miles an hour on that road. And if you put advertising on there, it's just going to be a zip. And I think this is the catalyst. This is, Daytona Avenue was the beginning. this gets us a little more traction. Then I think we're going to have business owners, like the old Pick and Save building. That would be beautiful for a huge mural like they have in DeLand with all the seaplane and all the other stuff up there. So I think this is a starting point. So, but I do like the Cardinal.
Awesome. Well,
I like the Cardinal.
Anything further? All right, so with that, I'll ask for a motion for approval, but to replace the snail with a cardinal.
Some sort of red bird.
No, Cardinal.
Yeah.
It's a red bird.
Cardinal is a red bird.
Yeah.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the murals with the one on the west side, changing out the snail to a cardinal.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion needed?
No.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move to our public hearings. The first public hearing is number 1, Ordinance 2022-0-3053, first reading. Mr. Simpson.
Ordinance number 2022-0-3053 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City of Holly Hill, Florida, amending the land development regulations by rezoning the parcels described in Exhibit A from CC1 Commercial Corridor District and B5 General Commercial District and R2 Low Medium Density Single Family Residential District and I2 Heavy Industrial District to BPUD Business Plan Unit Development, providing for conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date. And this is a quasi-judicial hearing, so disclosure of ex parte communications.
All right, let's go ahead and start off with the ex parte communication. Does anybody have anything to disclose for ex parte communication? Start with Vice Mayor.
I've probably had 1,000 conversations with Mr. Hanger over the last 5 years as he's dreamt of this project. We go camping together and we had conversations. If I ever owned a campground, or if you ever owned a campground, what would you want to do? So, and I've also had numerous conversations with Julian Reiner, happy anniversary, about this project. So I can't give you specific details, but there's been hundreds of conversations around campfires and backyards and
Serenos,
probably
as well. I wouldn't say thousands of conversations, but I'd say enough to disclose it. Yeah.
That suffices, Mr. Simpson.
Yes, anybody else?
Commissioner Curry.
I did have a few brief conversations with Mr. Hanger, just hearing his ideas on the project, and that's all I've had. And happy anniversary, apparently.
Commissioner Danio, did you have no? Any ex parte communication? I didn't hear you.
That's what I was saying about at Serenos when we've kind of chimed in, and I've had a few conversations. That's what I was saying, not thousands, but enough to disclose it.
Commissioner Johnson?
I've never really directly talked to him about it. I mean, everybody knows about it. I know about it. It's like common knowledge, but I've never really discussed with him how to do anything or do anything with it or anything like that.
Right. And my disclosure is I spoke to Mr. Hanger a couple times about it when it was early in the design stage, when it was still in the idea stage, that what you were looking to want to do there. So with that, our ex parte communications are all disclosed, and now I'll hand the floor over to you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Mayor, Commission. So this is to consider a rezone from Commercial Corridor and B5 General Commercial District and R2 Low Medium Density Single Family Residential District and I2, which is Heavy Industrial District, to Business Plan Unit Development with an associated written development agreement and a preliminary plan. And this is for an area that we're all familiar with, approximately 24 acres on the north side of Flomet Street. It's immediately west of the FEC Railroad and east of Tuscaloosa Avenue. And to specifically identify the parcels, we're talking about parcels 4242, 0428, 0171. That's also known as 490 Flomet Street. And 4242, 3802, 0080, 4242, 3802, 0010. And finally, 4242, 3801, 0010. And that particular parcel is addressed as 504 Flomich Street. So these parcels that were just introduced are all assigned as noted, their FLU and their zonings as noted in Exhibits B, E, and F. The applicant is requesting to rezone to business plan unit development in order to develop a 90-unit recreational vehicle park with 10 tent spaces. Additional amenities are shown on the attached preliminary development plan. Currently, most of the property is vacant. However, there is a structure that's approximately 1,280 square feet on the east side of the property. The reason why they're requesting a BPUD is because there is no straight zoning district that permits a recreational vehicle park. Just to remind the Commission, back in January, on January 11th of 2022, there was a comp plan amendment for this property that the Commission did approve to be transmitted to the state. So this rezone request and the comp plan amendment will be coming before you. Both of those items will be coming before you on September 12th for second reading. In your staff report, there is a comprehensive plan and zoning analysis that describes what is happening around the property, what are the zonings, what are the future land uses of the properties that surround this specific site. There's also a site analysis in your staff report. I won't go through each and every item, but if you have any specific questions about them, I'll be happy to go over that. One of the things that we look at with a rezone is whether or not there's consistency with the land development code, and basically, especially with a PD, the appropriateness of the requested zoning. So this particular business plan unit development designation and the associated preliminary development plan and development agreement, they've been evaluated for compatibility with the land development regulations, and the appropriateness of the requested uses within the PUD have also been evaluated when they're compared to what's happening around this specific site. So the uses in the surrounding area under consideration are varied. To the east, there's a railroad. To the south, there's commercial uses. To the west are residential homes. To the north is a golf course. When we look at the subject properties, the ones that are specifically the subject of the rezone request, we find that those also allow a variety of uses. Well, we have residential on the west that would be allowed on this property. We have commercial uses on the east that would be allowed on this property, and heavy industrial on the north. And just to give you an idea of what types of uses we're actually talking about that could be done on the property right now without any approval from the Commission, we're talking about things like car wash facilities, convenience stores, grocery stores, light industrial manufacturing, motor vehicle sales and rentals, bars and nightclubs, restaurants, truck and freight terminals, and then in the I-2 or the heavy industrial area, we're looking at things such as bulk storage of petroleum products, concrete processing, and product manufacturing, wrecker and towing services. So these are things that can go on that property right now without any type of approval. So really eliminating the residential, commercial, and heavy industrial uses for the 24 acres that are under consideration and replacing those uses with an upscale RV resort that's less intense than the commercial uses in the area and that does not exceed the number of dwelling units permitted per acre on the residential parcels is appropriate for the area. We also look at whether or not the rezone request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And again, this is something that you voted to approve for transmittal, and you'll see again in a couple of weeks. So the rezone request has been evaluated for consistency with all of the applicable policies of the city's comprehensive plan. The request is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, but specifically policy 1.1.2, should you decide to approve it on second reading. And that states with regard to the specific parcels that are the subject of this rezone request, that recreational vehicle parks shall be permitted only on the following parcels having low-density residential future land use. And then it lists the parcel numbers. And also, recreational vehicle parks shall be permitted only on the following parcel having the industrial future land use, and it lists the parcel number for that specific parcel. So in that sense, this specific rezone is something that is consistent with all of the applicable policies of the comprehensive plan. On August 1st of 2022, the Board of Planning and Appeals did recommend unanimously recommended approval of this specific rezone. So based on that, staff's recommendation is to recommend that the City Commission adopt the ordinance enacting a rezone from CC1 Commercial Corridor and B5 General Commercial District and R2 Low Medium Density Single Family Residential District and I2 Heavy Industrial District to BPUD Business Plan Unit Development with the associated written development agreement and preliminary plan for approximately 24 acres on the north side of Floman Street, immediately west of the FEC Railroad and east of Tuscaloosa Avenue, and specifically currently identified by the Property Appraiser's Office as parcels 4242-04-280171, also known as 490 Floman Street, 4242-3802-0080, 4242-3802-0010, and 4242-3801-0010, also known as 504 Floman Street. And that concludes my presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Are there questions for staff?
Brian, what step of the process does this go to St. John's for review? Does it go to St. John's and come back before we see it again? Or is St. John's after this approval?
That would be after this approval, and that would happen when the project is going through its actual engineering phase.
Thanks.
All right. And then I just have a couple questions. I know that there was talk about trying to get access to Cala Grande. Was that not able to be done through the county? I think it was at the county level, or?
It's not proposed with this specific preliminary plan. I don't know the reasons why. The applicant could give you some history on that, but I can tell you that right now it's not part of the proposal.
Okay, and I just want to make sure there's no requirement for a facility like this to have only one entrance and exit. There's no emergency exit out the back in case for some reason something was blocking the exit.
There's no requirement at the state level, and while some cities do say that if you are proposing so many units per acre or if a development is a certain size that you have to have that, some cities are silent on it, and our city is one of those.
Okay, good. And then the only other question I had was, and you kind of brought it up about St. John's Water Management. So I'm looking at the drawing here, and the pond is very large, probably larger than we initially expected it to be. I say we as in you. But so to me that says that will help alleviate other flooding all around. I know that it has to be able to control its own water, but will that help the surrounding areas as well with flooding issues?
It's expected that it would. Now, keep in mind, this many years ago, there had been a project that did go through review and had been sent to St. John's. So there was some level years ago, and the applicant and their engineer can talk to you further about that. So this wasn't the first time that St. John's saw this. It did go through a review, but not the review that it goes through when we do the engineering for the site.
Okay, perfect. That's the only questions I have for you. Are there any further questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Walker. And I know the applicant is here. Are you the engineer as well, or who would you like to come up to represent him? Okay. Yes, sir.
Sorry, not an engineer, I'm the landscape architect and the planner on the project.
Okay. Just wait till you get to the mic, just for recording purposes and state who you are and what firm.
Jake Stairs, Zev Cohen Associates, 300 West Interchange Boulevard, Ormond Beach, Florida.
Thank you, sir.
So just to kind of answer your questions, we have history with the project, as Mr. Walker discussed. We had done an original concept with a previous developer, and we've actually already gone through and submitted our initial submittal to St. John's. Just to start that process, it takes a little bit of lead time. We are doing the engineering right now. So, we are required to accommodate all the stormwater that comes into our site from off-site, as well as capture ours. What you're seeing with the stormwater pond is just that there is a lot of low-lying land, which is, I think is well known to everybody in the community here, and we're just kind of working within that constraint.
Great. Is that an island?
So that is an existing wetland. So what we're doing is we're actually designing within some of the conditions that exist on site and trying to preserve as much of the habitat as possible within that area.
That's Penny Island.
It's not Robin Island?
Robin Lake.
All right. Are there any questions I'm sorry, you're not an engineer, you are
I'm a landscape architect.
Landscape architect, there we go. All right, seeing no further questions there, thank you. And Mr. Hanger, I appreciate you showing that to us. So, any questions for Mr. Hanger? All right, thank you. At this time, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the Commission on this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close public participation, and I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion.
Second.
Waiting 42 years to this.
All right. We got a motion for approval from Commissioner Johnson, a second from Commissioner Curry. Is there discussion needed?
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Hanger was joking when he said Penny Island. I want to make sure I have no financial interest in this project whatsoever.
He was talking about her.
Right.
And I was going to say, I know nothing about an island being named after me.
Thank you.
So that clears those two companies out.
For the record.
He's just mad we didn't put a Robin on the thing.
Yeah. Any further discussion?
I would just like to say that I'm excited with the possibilities here. I know Mr. Hanger's proven time and time again in our community to do things right, and the Martins have done the same thing. Just look across the street. I always say the proof's in the pudding. So I'm just excited for what the future holds.
Perfect. All right.
I remember so much of the history of that place. When it was a dairy farm, when the Bishops had it. When Mr. Bishop died, I would go bush hog for Miss Bishop. I even put horses on it one time so she could keep the green belt, try to help her out. It's been vacant for quite a bit, over 40 years, man. It's time to do something.
Don't forget it had a Civil War reenactment.
I know.
It's the Police Explorer.
They stopped that the second time.
All right. Anything further before we vote? All right. With that being said, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now we'll move to number 2, which is 732 Avondale Avenue, request for variance. Mr. Walker.
Yes, just to let the Commission know that the applicant lives in New Jersey, so they are not here this evening.
Thank you.
So this is a request for a variance at 732 Avondale Avenue, and it is a variance request from the requirements of Section 114-765, which is our schedule of dimensional requirements, that requires that principal structures in the R3 single-family zoning district be a minimum of 20 feet from the rear property line. Just to give you some information about this specific parcel, I did find in my research that the parcel is part of the Mason Carswell's plat, which was originally recorded on May 10th in 1883. The lot contains a home that was built originally in 1925. The current home is about 800 square feet. The property under consideration is zoned R3. It has a low-density single-family residential future land use, and the rear of the property, which is the west side, abuts a commercial parking lot, which is zoned CC1. So the existing home sits on the rear property line. It does not have a backyard to speak of. So the property owner would like to build a 293 square foot screen room addition on the existing home, but obviously they can't meet the 20-foot rear setback that is required by the Schedule of Dimensional Requirements in the code, and that is why they have requested a variance. So if the variance is approved, the applicant would be permitted to build a 293 square foot screen room addition on the rear property line, and if it is not approved, obviously they will not be able to do so. In a nutshell, the requested variance is to go from 20 feet on the rear property line to 0. Now, in order to grant the variance request, the Commission has to find that the request meets the requirements of Section 82-317, and there are 6 requirements. I won't go through all of them, but I would like to highlight a couple of them. The first requirement is that there be special conditions and circumstances that exist that are peculiar to the land, structure, or building involved, as distinguished from the applicant himself, and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same zoning district. So in this specific case, the home on the property was built in 1925, and it was placed on the rear property line. There is no backyard. There are 23 homes on Avondale Avenue, and this subject home is one of 6 on the street that don't have a backyard. Criteria 2, you have to find that special conditions and circumstances, or that the special conditions and circumstances didn't result from the actions of the applicant. Now, in this case, as mentioned, the home was built in 1925 and placed on the rear property line, but this parcel is part of a lot that was platted in 1883. The original lot was 300 feet long and 100 feet wide. And even if that lot existed today, as it did over 100 years ago, the home would still be on the very rear property line of that lot. So it's not where it is due to changes in the lot lines or cutting of the lot lines. It was just placed on the rear of that property line and has always been there. Additionally, the home was built in its current location prior to the existence of our land development regulations. And then criteria number 5 states you have to find that the variance granted is the minimum variance necessary to make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. So the screen room that they're looking to do is approximately 293 square feet. And it's designed to be compatible with the dimensions and the access points of the house now. Other locations for the screen room were considered. I did talk to the applicant. We tried to see if there was a way that this could be done without requiring a variance. One of the only other ideas was maybe to move the screen room, put it on the front of the house, but even in that case, just a different type of variance would have been needed. So really, the requested variance is the minimum necessary to make reasonable use of the property, with emphasis on reasonable. So staff finds that the applicant has met all of the criteria as stated above to grant the variance request. On August 1st, the Board of Planning and Appeals did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this variance request. Staff recommends approval of the rear yard setback variance from the requirements of Section 114-765, Schedule of Dimensional Requirements, from 20 feet to 0 feet, to allow the construction of a 293 square foot attached screen room addition on the south side of the existing home, located on the west side of Avondale Avenue, approximately 180 feet south of 8th Street, and more particularly known as 732 Avondale Avenue. that concludes my presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any questions for Mr. Walker? Yes, sir.
Brian, you said the house is on the property line. When I read the application for the variance, it actually says it's 3. The narrative says it's 3 feet from the property line.
The narrative is done by the applicant themselves. What I do is I look at the survey.
Okay, so the survey is accurate. I didn't want to, if they're really 3 feet, they don't really need 0 feet. They're right on the line, is what you're saying.
Yes, and the survey is part of the part of the packet.
Okay.
So officially it's 0 and not the 3 that was in the application, because that was a question I was going to ask.
Right. The applicant has a section that they fill out, and oftentimes they spitball things.
Kind of
they're
just
not
guessing.
sure exactly.
Okay.
So what we do is staff will look at it
confirm it.
and confirm it.
Okay, thanks.
Right. And that's not to say that there are times that if we're dealing with very small amounts, sometimes I will round. Sometimes it's easier just to say 10 feet than 9.1.
Yeah.
So sometimes there is that rounding that is done.
All right. Good question. All right.
You say the applicant is in New Jersey?
Yes.
The applicant lives here, or?
The home, to my understanding right now, is that it's either had a renter or it's vacant, and the applicant is looking to eventually move from New Jersey and come down and occupy the home.
All right. Any further questions? With that, we'll open this up to the public. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll close public participation. If there's ever been a reason to grant a variance, I feel like not only does this meet all of the 6 criteria, but when looking at this house and how it's built, is really a side thing, not a backyard. So I am in full support of this, and I will entertain a motion for approval as stated by Mr. Walker.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion for approval from Commissioner Curry and a second from Vice Mayor Penny. Any discussion needed? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now moving on to communications. I just want to start by saying really enjoyed the Veterans Monument workshop tonight. I'm glad we hammered out a lot of those things. I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what it's going to look like as it comes back with all of our suggestions, and we'll go from there. Voted today. Very special. It's great to be American, and brought my kids so they could experience that. And I always vote every election. I've voted every election since I was 18 with my dad, and it's our thing. And so I went today with him. Yeah.
Every vote counts.
Every vote counts. Going back to your invitation, that's exactly right. So with that, I will move on to, let's start with Vice Mayor Penny tonight.
I said it earlier, I just wanted to applaud one of our newest employees.
I skipped you, but I'll come back to you.
Ben, our debris collector. I don't know if that's his official title, but guy's out there working hard.
Yeah, I'll come back.
He's working hard every day. And I just want to thank Jeff Delanoy in our utility billing department. I got a visit at my office yesterday about 1 o'clock from Jeff. He said, "Hey, you got a problem? You used 10,000 gallons of water yesterday, and you used 6,000 today." Oh no, we're in trouble. So we were able to isolate the leak and stop the leak, and thank goodness to our electronic meters. They get a report every morning. They see an abnormality, and they go tell the property owner, which is probably $500 or $600 worth of water a day. And in the old system, we wouldn't have known for 30 days, and there would be no way to stop it. So thanks to our utility billing department and Jeff Delanoy in particular. So that's all I got.
Mr. Curry.
Awesome. I really don't have much of anything. I also enjoyed our workshop and can't wait to see the finished product. It's been a long time. But I have nothing else. Everybody have a good night.
Perfect. Mr. Dan.
Thanks to our veterans who came to help us. Congratulations to Mr. Hanger and Martins. Looking forward to that getting going. Other than that, that's all I got.
All right. Commissioner Johnson.
Tomorrow's a TPO meeting, so it's been a while since we had one, so I hope we can move forward on some roads. I'm still pushing Hartford, PGA. I still think we need an interchange at Denton Edgewood area, although some people are against it, I think. And I still think we need to go through with Timber Creek Road all the way to 40. I think we need to finish widening Williamson Boulevard. We need to widen Hand Avenue and go across the interstate eventually. And there's several things I'm pushing for. And they can talk all they want about the office workers or the different things they do in the committee meetings and all that, but I'm going to push for the roads. What do you think? We need the roads, and we need them to start planning on them now, not wait like they did that bridge that should have been planned for over 10 years ago at the LPGA. You know? And we're still going. So if anybody has anything they want me to bring up to TPO meeting, I'll be glad to do it tomorrow, within reason, of course. But another thing is Sports Center's moving ahead. It looked like it's not moving very fast, but it's still going inside pretty good, and I think we'll still get it to come together maybe by the middle of October. I hope it'll work out that way. And then I just got to thinking about the veterans meeting in there and everything about what all we talked about and all that. That when it says that somebody sacrificed their life on the front of that monument, to me that almost sounds like a kamikaze. Nobody that's in the military would go in and voluntarily sacrifice their life. They go in there to win or they lose. So to me, I would think it should say something about they lost their life or something rather than sacrifice it. I've been thinking about it for a while, and to me that just don't sound right. But if everybody else agrees on the sacrifice, we'll go with that. If you know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's about all that I have tonight. But I appreciate everything everyone does and how we are positive towards people in the city when they want to do something and respect people's property they own and say they have a right to do things with it. I like that.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Forte, skipped over you earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We own, the city owns the property at 8th and Ridgewood. That's the one that we had the taking on, if you recall. So I'm assuming that we want to go ahead and try to sell that. So I'm working on putting it out. Because it was purchased with CRA money, I have to advertise it and try to get bids in, and then if we don't, we'll do like we did with the other ones, and we'll probably go back to Marta and see if she'll sell it for us. But we've got to at least put a request for proposals out there. So I just want to make sure that everybody is in favor of me doing that. I'll bring the proposal back for your approval. There's a little bit of a delay in that the legal description for it was not filed correctly, so it's got to be redone. But in the meantime, I'll get that completed and bring it back for final approval.
Any objection to selling the 8th Street property? All right.
And just by way of rumor, the lady that was here that talked about the Redbird, the Cardinal, when the item came up for the trailer park, she had mentioned she lived on 6th Street, so I thought maybe she was confused coming here for the 6th Street development property when this was upside. Well, I went outside to talk to her, and she said, no, she came here because she was told that the city's going to be doing away with the 7th Street Park and Lake that's over there.
What?
That's what I said. So she said somebody told her that the city's going to eliminate that lake and park. I said, no such thing. It's not happening. Not part of any development, not on the radar. So if you hear anything...
We take pride in all our parks.
Somebody instruct her to come here to fight for that lake. And
usually I hear those type of rumors. I haven't heard that one, so that's new.
I hear
other than that, I'm hoping that this mural goes through.
Yeah, there we go. Mr. Simpson?
No comment.
Valerie, Ms. Manning? Mr. Kutakis? All right. Do we have any further business before this commission? All right, seeing none, we are now adjourned.